that mobile-friendly feature enabled, we couldn't do this. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my home screen. It's called Harvard App. It's pulling that from the title tag of the web page. And now it's here on my desktop. And now I have an icon on my desktop. So I can now forever get back to this app by clicking this. And notice the status bar is black. And notice you can't quite see my fingers doing this. But if I click on the screen or touch the screen and try to drag down, what is absent? Yeah, so the address bar, the URL bar that's usually there. But this is Safari. But it's mimicking the idea of a native application by not revealing to me that it's Safari. But the only reason it did that was because in my HTML, I proactively, if verbosely, told the browser that it is mobile web app capable. So that's all that meta tag does. And there's a bunch of others that do similar tweaks to your interface. The status bar style we just saw. The Apple Touch icon can also be defined here. So if you define Apple Touch icon to be some ping, and there's actual pixel specifications you can read up online or just match the one that we included here, that's how you can specify what icon shows up. So it's not the default fav icon or whatever black and white icons there by default. You can do a pre-composed one. So if you really don't like Apple's sort of three-dimensional glistening of your icons, which they add for you to your icon, you can say, I have a pre-composed ping, which means I'm really good at Photoshop. I made the three-dimensional button myself. Don't add additional gloss to it. So there's that feature as well. And then startup image. If you have a really crappy website that takes a really long time to load, you can show the user an image as it's loading up. It isn't necessarily a bad website. It might just be one that has to request a whole lot of data. If Gmail, frankly, needs to request a lot of data so that you can begin interacting with your folders and labels and your inbox. So Gmail, for instance, might have an icon implemented in this fashion here. So any questions on those more aesthetic tweaks that you can apply? All right, so where does that leave us? In order to get that slightly more dynamic interface, even though it was imperfect with jQuery Mobile, we added this last line of yellow text in a language called JavaScript. Some of you, many of you might not even know JavaScript, or at least the aspects of it that we're going to leverage for mobile. But let's pause here, take a look at the course itself before diving back into actual development. So this is building mobile applications. What does that actually mean? The prerequisites for the class, as you might have seen in the course catalog, are simply these. Prior programming experience in any object-oriented language. So that could be something like Java, C++, C#, or any number of other languages. But the goal is to have students in this course have comfort already on the way in with the notion of classes and objects and instance variables and class variables, even if you know some of those things by different names. So if you're on the fence about your preparedness for the course or not sure if what you learned is consistent with our expectations, during the break that we'll take in a bit, or at the end of this class tonight, do come up to chat with me or others of the staff who I'll introduce in a bit to see if we're on the same page as you, so that, frankly, you don't have a bad experience over the next several weeks simply because you don't have the requisite knowledge. 6, 7 weeks is going to really fly by, and if you're trying to learn the prerequisites for the course while trying to follow the course, it could certainly be more than an arduous task. So touch base with us if unsure. Comfort with HTML and CSS. If you didn't really bat an eye at anything we just did, that's good. If you're unfamiliar with HTML or CSS, it's probably not going to be ideal, but in fairness, we'll spend just a week or two on the mobile web aspect of the course. So if you're really here and fired up about the Objective-C and the iOS aspect, talk to us too during the break or after about exactly what you do or don't have as experience. You don't, as you've perhaps inferred, need an actual iPhone, iPad, or iPod for the course. You can do everything in the confines of a simulator. You do pay a price for that in that you can't have access to like the accelerometer. So like even shaking your laptop's not going to do anything to the simulator. So you do not have quite as much functionality. But if you do have an iOS device of some sort, you can use it for the course, certainly to test your mobile apps, but also your native apps. The catch is that Apple doesn't like to let us install software rewrite on our own hardware unless we pay Apple for that privilege. So you actually typically need to sign up for what's called an iOS developer account, which typically is $99. If you plan on doing iOS development after the course, so 7 weeks hence, it's probably a good thing to sign up for anyway, even right now, so that you use your Apple ID, so that you can download betas. For instance, I'm running iOS 7 on my phone already because it's accessible to people who are in the developer program. But if you think at the end of the semester you're not going to try to put something in the App Store and you therefore don't really need access for a year, it's an annual fee, We have an academic account which won't let you submit to the App Store, but will let you install software that you write on your computer onto your phone or your iPad or iPod. So we'll set you up with that in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll ask you for your Apple IDs and more at that point. So you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to sign up for anything. But if you're going to be doing this for the next year, you might as well do it sooner rather than later, so you don't have to transition from our account to yours in a couple of months' time. Any questions on prerequisites? All right, so expectations, pretty straightforward. To attend all of the lectures and labs, more on those in just a moment, and submit all of the projects, more on those in a moment. Lectures, this is lecture. The focus will be on 1 week on web apps, namely this one, with a project that itself will take 2 weeks, and then 5 of the course's weeks on native applications, Objective-C, iOS, and related features thereof. This is an incomplete list of the topics and the concepts that we'll be looking at. We'll go into more detail over the coming weeks as to what it means to develop native applications. We definitely will not cover the entirety of the iOS SDK. As Apple likes to say, they just released another 1,500 APIs as of 2 weeks ago with iOS 7. There's thousands of APIs for them means method or variable, apparently. But the API itself is very rich. There's things like the map SDK with which you can embed maps, and there's the touch interface, and there's a storage layer, there's a database layer, and all sorts of ancillary ones. What we'll do in our time together over the summer is try to focus on really the most fundamental and the ones that are most representative of other SDKs, so that when you decide to write your own application, even if we never, for instance, use the gyroscope, at least the framework and the mental model will be similar from aspects of the language that we did do. Whoops, let's just zoom out for a moment and then zoom back in on labs. So what are labs? So per the course catalog, labs are going to be the hands-on aspect of the course that'll take place same time, but on Wednesdays of each week, led by the course's teaching fellows. And these will be opportunities for you to bring your laptops as well. We'll meet not here, but in a more classroom-structured environment across the hall and set up workstations for everyone. And it will be a mixture of hands-on opportunities to explore recent materials, so things similar in spirit to what we did tonight, to explore the week's projects, and to get some hints and tips and tricks as to how to dive into those, and also an opportunity for one-on-one Q&A with the course's staff, generally toward the end of those labs. We'll reserve some time for office hours-like environments so you can work on your projects alongside classmates, but have the support structure of some of us there to field questions for you. The website is here, as you might have found already, cs76.net. Discuss is the web-based tool that we'll use over the course of the summer to interact. Rather than rely on email, which ends up going only to us and back to you, we'll generally point you toward Discuss, which is the course's discussion forums. You can still post questions to the staff privately there. There's a link on the course's website to Discuss. And what we'll ask that you do for the first project is say hello to your classmates. So if you'd like to get ahead, there's a general category in the Discuss boards, and you're welcome to say hello, a little something about yourself, and perhaps why you are interested in iOS development. There's more. Okay. Projects. So the projects are really where you'll get your hands dirty in the course and retain the most, and I think learn the most. There'll be 3 total projects. 2 of them are our choices of specifications. We will specify exactly what the challenges are. The third one, though, will be your choice for you to propose to the course's staff and then design and implement your very own project. The first 2 that are signed, one will be themed mobile local, more on that Wednesday, but it will involve using browser's geolocation API, using open data sets, and mashing things together into an interface that allows users to explore news and weather, all based on their current location. Evil Hangman, meanwhile, will be an implementation in iOS of Hangman, but much more evil than you're used to, whereby rather than just have you guess the letters that the computer is thinking of, which is a very boring game once you're a few years older than when you probably last played it, the Evil Hangman version of this cheats, such that any time you guess a letter like E, the computer, or in this case your phone or iPad or iPod, is going to change the word it was thinking of and re-choose a word that's the same length but that has no E's. And when you proceed to guess A, it's going to throw away the word it was thinking about and make sure it has no E's or A's. And when you choose C, it's going to make sure the word it's thinking of is still the same length but has no E's, A's, or C's, until finally it beats you by coming up with the word like dog, which you should have thought of, but damn it, the thing was cheating the whole time. And so implementing this and calling it not Evil Hangman, but Hangman, and having your friends play it is a wonderful way to make them think that they're awful at Hangman. All right, so more on that to come. Grades in the course is fairly straightforward. Performance in the course will be determined by the projects. No exams, no attendance records, nothing beyond the course's actual workload and immersion. We'll evaluate them on 4 different axes. Scope, the extent to which you tackled the project itself. Did you bite off all of the features, or did you only even try half of it? Correctness, to what extent is it consistent with our expectations? Design, how good is it underneath the hood? How well designed is it? So a more subjective measure. And style, a more aesthetic measure. Are your variables well named?